I think once the client can actually understand, yes, it is too much for me sometimes, and to admit that I'm not a perfect animal owner all the time. I'm going to have my stuff come up and it will reflect with my animal. There will be changes with that. As soon as they can allow for that space for them to be vulnerable and admit it's too much sometimes.
Yeah, be real.
There is instant relief. And the animal will feel that.
Hello and welcome to the Natural Animal Podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Hatton. I'm an animal naturopath and just mega animal lover in general. Here on the show, we share thoughts and ideas about the nature of animals, their preferences, their behaviours, their ways of being, to engender a greater understanding, respect, compassion and love for all animals, companion, farm and wild. I hope you enjoy this show and I hope you love this week's episode. Hello. Today we've got a guest episode with my kinesiologist, Jacqueline Lee. We're going to be exploring how kinesiology works with animals and what kinesiology reveals around the intricate relationship between companion animals and their humans. Let me tell you a bit about Jacqueline first. She is a kinesiologist and an integrative trauma healer. She serves as a catalyst of transformative change on a physical, emotional, and mental level. She works with clients to discover what is out of alignment and holding them back from reaching their true potential, and to bring it into alignment so they can live a life functioning at their optimum. Jacqueline possesses a multitude of skills learned through formal training, as well as her own mastery of emotional highs and lows and consistent surrender to the wisdom of the shadow self. With her kinesiology work, she supports adults, children, and families, including, of course, their beloved pets. Jacqueline, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, of course. How could I not invite you here today? Like on my amazing show. And listeners or watchers, whenever Jacqueline and I get together, it's quite, the word that's come through, let's see if I can pronounce it properly. It's quite raucous. Is that how you say it? Like
yeah.
R-A-U. It's quite lively. Let's simplify things.
Very lively, very active.
Very active. We're both very, I think we very, what's your star sign?
I'm a double Virgo, Scorpio rising.
You're a double Virgo. I met another double Virgo recently.
Oh,
I need to speak to you separately offline about that. But double Virgo is so interesting. But the Scorpio, this person is Scorpio moon. So that's so bizarre.
Matchy.
Sorry, guys. This is what I mean. So it's interesting though, because you don't feel like a Virgo to me. Like, you're very fiery.
Yes, I have got a lot of fire in my whole chart. The fire dominates my chart. It's probably about 7 in fire.
Right. Where's your Mercury?
It's actually in Libra. So I've got a lot of, I'll go fire.
I thought that might be fire because
then there's a lot of air.
Got a lot of fire fuels and air.
Yeah. And then it gets to water, and earth's a little bit lower.
Yeah, I don't have much of those in my chart either. I'm all like fire.
So there's a lot of chat, and a lot of passion.
Yeah. This is why we are like we are when we get together, because it's all just the fire and air, baby.
And then I've got to ground it.
Then you've got to ground it. Well, yeah, we have our tools to do that.
That's right. So I'm sitting with a grounding tool right now.
Yes, and audience, we were literally talking about our grounding crystals. Hello. That we would bring in today to help us. Those listening, you won't see the beautiful cute crystals. Go and check this out on YouTube. But yes, to ground the fire and the air, because it probably could get quite explosive in here.
Yes, very much.
So let's get into the juicy stuff. The people will be like, what have I tuned into? Has Ruth changed the show to astrology?
Astrology?
No, I haven't. It's just one of my loves. And I just, and probably if you subscribe to my show, you're probably interested in astrology too, or you're going to be if I start other conversations in this vein as we go through the shows and the seasons. But let's get into the topic of today, which is the reason why I brought Jacqueline here to be with us, because I really want to pick her brain on a ton of stuff, and have laughs and banter along the way, but to share share all of this information and wisdom that Jacqueline has, that I feel you're really going to get a lot of value out of. So, Jacqueline, let's just get into the juicy stuff. I mean, it's already been quite juicy.
Yeah.
But the other day, we were chatting about an experience that you had with a client, and how that brought up something really super interesting. Like, we were talking about, listeners, we were talking about it in our Instagram DMs with the voice notes, and we were just like, oh my God, yes, that would be amazing to discuss on the show, hence why I'm starting with this. But it brought us something really, really interesting around the relationship between companion animal and pet parent. And I'm just going to open up the floor to you, Jacqueline, to let you share for us, please. Obviously maintaining privacy and confidentiality of your client, which I know you do because you're a professional. But your observations, maybe give us a bit of context around it, but then your observations and insights from that as it relates to the human animal relationship and healing and stuff.
Well, the relationship between the two is almost like a child relationship with a parent.
Between animal and their human.
Absolutely. It's definitely, there's your soul contract in there with any animal that you have. And in particular, this situation, the animal was disturbed on many, many levels. And, you looked at the physical part of the animal, and yeah, everything seems to be okay there, but we could help it with this, blah, blah, blah. So in terms of the animal and its behavior, I ended up working on the owner of the animal.
So was this a session that you started intending for, was it kinesiology? And was
just for the client.
For the client or the client's animal?
Just for the client.
Just for the client, but the animal came through?
Yeah, the animals, basically what happened, what was going on with her, that replicated exactly what was going on with the animal. So that's how it got brought in. And the animal is still alive, so it's living.
Yeah.
So when we dived into the shadow aspect of the client's emotional dysregulation, there was this moment where the penny dropped, and it was, this situation is exactly like your animal's situation. And once the client recognized that and could acknowledge it, there was this shift in the client's behavior. It was like she had an answer.
An answer for what was going on with her, or an answer for what was going on with the animal, or both?
Same. It was exactly the same. So the situation with the client and what had happened with the client's past as a child at the same age that the animal is at now was exactly the same situation.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But how did it, like, can you take us there in that moment? Like, was she on the table? Imagine, because I'm always on the table when I see you.
Yeah.
Lying down in the cozy table. I never want to get off. And you were doing your thing, which we'll talk about. I'm going to get you to explain what exactly is kinesiology for those who don't know. But you were doing your thing, your magic, and was it like
an age came up? So I can find a particular age. I'll start with an emotion, which will bring it in, and I'll have a bit of a discussion about that emotion and what that person is, how they relate to that. And then I will normally go in and find an age. Is it now? Is it back there? And so it was that moment when the emotion was there, and all the branches that came off that one emotion. And then it led into this particular age. And that's when I questioned and said, isn't that the age of your animal right now?
Mm.
And
You
that's
kind
when
of drew that connection, and then she's like, oh my God.
yeah, same, exactly the same situation which was going on in the house at the time, in the client's environment and the animal's environment. And it's come back up recently for not so much the client, but the animal. So it was replicating this client at that recessed age, very young age. And then everything that went on with that client in the last 3 years was replicating the behaviour of the animal in the last 3 years. So
Yeah.
there was, yes, there was this definite connection. And so once we sort of established that, we could go in and sort of dig it up a bit, get the shovel out, dig
Take
up the dirt a
trash.
bit, yeah, get down to the root of the actual energy that's going on, and connect with, okay, well, what is that feeling for you? Let's explore that. Let's lean into it. Let's let it sit next to us, and let's not try to regulate it. Let's just stay with the dysregulation so we can dig it up and out. So, you keep digging, you find your worms, and it allows for the real growth right down deep to happen. And that's what we did. And it was, as soon as I said, isn't that exactly what went on with you as a child? And the client went, it was like mic drop.
Yeah.
One of those moments where you're like, oh, wow, I'm just playing out all my trauma with my animal.
And, I love that because
Unconsciously, unconsciously,
totally.
until, the conscious behavior of your animal is playing out an unconscious behavior of you and what you haven't healed yet. So let's go in and bring that to the consciousness, and let's try and not band-aid it. Let's try and help it. Let's support it so you can support your animal, because generally when you're supported, those disturbing sort of behaviors that are coming from your animal, they just dissolve.
Yeah, exactly. It's like because of the connection that exists between, or that can exist, I always kind of like, it does exist automatically, or it can exist as dependent on the situation, the environment, and all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of default to that it can exist rather than have this definitive, it exists,
That's right. That's right.
Can
Open.
exist. Yeah, open, because of the amazing, the basis of this relationship, and how this animal is here with this human is with this animal. And this is a perfect example of where the animal is mirroring the human
from another timeline.
From another timeline.
That's still in the system, and it's coming out as quite a big dysregulation within the client. It's like a living virus going on, and the animal is picking up on the energy of that virus, and it may not have any real contact with it, but it's picking up on that whole frequency, because animals are very vibrational, and so are humans. We're quite vibrational between each other. And the animal was definitely picking up on that. And as soon as we broke it, like we broke it down into then and now, and it was like, okay, so how can you support you to support the animal? And because if you're supporting you, the animal will pick up on that.
Exactly. So she
Automatically feels safe. It's all about safety, isn't it?
Yeah.
and feeling what that is, trying not to process it through the mind, trying to feel what that is for you, you will make a really large connection to the animal and what it's feeling, because it can't speak. It speaks in a different way. It'll have its sound effects, and it doesn't speak English, but it has its own language. And for you to understand that language, especially when you start to heal something in yourself, the animal's language will change.
The animals and the language, which includes their behaviour,
Yes.
will change. And it's like, as the human heals, the animal heals.
And just being with that, allow for the process to just do its thing. All you need to do is acknowledge that this is where it is for me. I'll work through that. And so we work through those layers. It was like a dirty rag. We were just rinsing and rinsing and rinsing until we just got all that dirt out. And then it was time to wash it, cleanse it all out. And, it's really remarkable, the change in the animal, even just from that one session.
And I was going to ask you that, has your client noticed a change in the animal's behaviours since the session?
More connection.
Yeah.
And, being really vulnerable, it's, sometimes it's with an animal and you've got it on your own and you're looking after it, we sometimes feel burdened, as we do as a parent and a child. There is that energy there. There's an over responsibility. It all lands on you. And that's with anything, with your work, with if you've got children, or with your animals. That's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think once the client can actually understand, yes, it is too much for me sometimes, and to admit that I'm not a perfect animal owner all the time. I'm going to have my stuff come up, and it will reflect with my animal. There will be changes with that. As soon as they can allow for that space for them to be vulnerable and admit it's too much sometimes.
Yeah, be real.
There is instant relief. And the animal will feel that. Because right now the animal feels like a burden.
Yeah, well, if the human is feeling that, oh my God, that the animal's a burden, then the animal's going to pick up on that and feel like a burden.
Even though you love it unconditionally and there's all that going on, and they're not really a burden. It's just like, sometimes the weight of everything, including that, can be vast, and you've just got to go, actually, it is too much right now. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with this animal, and I really need to just check in. That's when you've got to check in with you. What am I trying to make this animal as perfect as I am?
Which I'm not. Hello.
That's exactly right. And we have this belief. That's exactly right, Ruth. Like, we have this belief that the animal has to be perfect all the time, like a parent with a child. Child's got to be perfect all the time. And,
why is my animal doing this? Oh my God.
Yeah. That's right. How dare you be not
an animal?
Normal? And then, we often don't take a look at what's going on with us. So if we're trying to portray this perfectionism, if we're trying to meet high expectations with life, that animal is going to do the same thing to you and have an expectation. So it's going to stir things up. It'll almost project their stuff back at you. Like, we don't often know we're unconsciously projecting on top of the animal, and then the animal goes, hang on a minute, and throws it straight back. Yeah. And so then you get triggered by that behaviour. It's like, well, actually, maybe I'm throwing all that onto it. So it's once we got and understood what was being projected, what was being triggered, it was nothing to do with the dog, or nothing to do with the cat, or nothing to do with the horse, whatever.
Of course.
It's got something to do with me, and that is with everything. So really, I just treat someone in a session, if it's with an animal, or it's with a boss, or it's with a partner, it's actually with you.
Yeah, it all comes back to you.
Yeah.
And it's not about that. It's important when we have that realization and the acceptance that I am responsible, it's like, you know, Bob Proctor. Did you ever get into Bob Proctor's work? I went and saw him at a seminar in Brisbane like forever ago. And he's kind of like a motivational speaker kind of
Speaker.
person. And he's written books and he's American. I think he's still alive. Pretty sure he's still
Yeah, I
alive.
think he is.
And
Yeah.
he still does trainings. Like he's got a website with all these courses and stuff. It's like, oh, I had no idea. But one of the things he said that really stood, this is probably more than 20 years ago that I went and saw this seminar of his in Brisbane. And the thing that really stood out, the one thing that stood out amongst everything else was that you are responsible for everything in your life, which can be really, really hard to hear. But because I heard that at such a young age, and it was always sitting there in the back of my mind as I went through life, I created this. And it's not like you physically, created the thing or you intentionally
Wanted
it or started a relationship that was going to break your heart because you knew that was going to happen or something like that. But you are the creator. You are responsible for everything that happens in your life. And that's, basically what one of the tenets of his teachings is, that you are responsible. If you're not happy with your life, you're responsible to change it. You have the power to change it.
Yeah, you are accountable for every action. There's a reaction. And when, if we're not accountable for it, it will continue. Okay.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of this situation was quite codependent.
Yeah.
Like we can really make our animals highly codependent because there's a part of us that feels insecure about being independent for ourselves. And that's not being, I'm on my own, go away, I'm strong. That's not independent I'm talking about. It's the independence with being responsible, with what you just said, being responsible and being accountable and making that change. That is independence. When we don't do those three things, we are sitting in a codependent state, and we will often reach to something that will help us escape from that codependency, and that will be another codependency. So, we can blame the animal for its behavior, but really it was playing out your codependencies, your insecurities, the things that you haven't actually healed yet, which sometimes take a while.
Exactly.
And
Most of the time, take a while.
that's right. That's right. And the animal actually shifts quite quicker.
Yeah.
They shift quicker than what we do.
They have their role, and we both have our roles, individual roles and together roles within the relationship. But it's going back to that accountability, and that it's also having I was going to say, I'm just going to say it, having the balls, right? Or having the guile or the strength or whatever you want to say to actually
Backbone.
get the backbone. See, my brain works, I think, gutter talk, right? Having this strength to sit back and reflect. And I say this with my clients almost all the time, with every client, particularly if there is a behavioral issue or even a physical health issue, but particularly if there is a behavioral issue, which is often something like anxiety, and where does that anxiety stem from? And so I will often ask the question, the client, just say, for example, I'll use an example from a recent chat that I had with a client. The animal acts jealous. This is a human's interpretation of it. Acts jealous toward the, I don't know who, to there's a partner situation, and she filled out the form and she mentioned that the dog is jealous. And so we were talking about it, and for me it's like, okay,
Are you jealous?
I invite you to take a moment to reflect on, in your life, like jealousy usually stems from betrayal or a betrayal, right? And so you have that, insecurity within yourself.
Mhm.
You're like, oh, they're going to do the same thing. Oh my God, I'm so jealous of that relationship that they have because they could leave me. It's
Abandonment.
abandonment, the abandonment wound. And so it's like, I invite you, you don't have to do it now whilst we're having our consult, but maybe later, a bit of homework is reflect back on your life and think, where has there been a time where you have felt betrayed or abandoned? Because that could be why the animal is presenting with the so-called jealousy, the jealous behavior as a reflection of you.
Absolutely. The symptoms of they're a mirror image, like you said before.
Mm.
And, animals are highly intuitive.
Mm.
And so are we if we allow ourselves to be.
Yes.
And they trust everything is on instinct.
Mm.
And so they're really trying to teach us the same thing, tune in and feel, okay, well, this is what's going on. Perhaps there's something that you haven't worked on or you don't feel good enough about,
Yeah.
and it lies heavily in the shadow aspect. And that's what I do with integrating trauma. It's all shadow work. Like
Yeah.
I go in and poke and prod because I want to get to the shadow.
Yeah.
I know your light's there, right? But I want to see what's going on in the shadow, because the shadow will have a complete veil blocking your light.
Yeah.
And, that's all we do. It's the same thing when you're working with people, we're working with animals. You see what's really going on here. And it's often you've got to lean into the aspect of what's happening rather than, oh, let's just fix this. Let's not fix it. Let's
So
just lean
interesting you
in.
should say that.
Yeah, let's not just, because everyone wants the fast solution, the fix
Yes.
it, give me the
Quick
Band-Aid.
fix. Yeah.
Won't actually heal it, because I'm not going down into the cellular memory of anything here. I'm just staying on that dermal layer right on the top, the big superficial layer. And, once you go deeper, you'll find there will be a replication going on.
Between human and animal.
Both. Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that the whole, I mean, you already mentioned it, but isn't that the whole stems from, the soul contract?
Yep. And I believe that, soul contracts are with all of us, including our animals. And for example, my cat that I've got, I've always been surrounded by cats, even as a child.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, mum and dad we always had 2 or 3 cats, and dogs and cockatoos, everything.
Yeah.
And but in particular, this cat always slept on my bed, or if I was playing the organ, she would literally sit on my lap while I played. And
vibration of music.
it was
And
really
your
funny because,
feeling when you're
yep.
playing it.
And I
Yeah.
could feel like there was this photo taken. My mum took it. It was like a side profile, and the cat's on my lap and I'm playing it. I've got the worst shitty look on my face.
Don't take a photo of me.
Yeah, puberty, proper puberty. And yeah, I look back at that and I go, oh, I was really struggling.
I want to see that photo. You should put that photo on your website.
I was really struggling at 14. Like, I was really struggling with everything and hormones. And here's the cat, plonked herself on and she would not. She slept on my bed, no one else's, every single night. And I didn't have this massive connection to this cat.
You didn't think you did?
No. And I really
did.
disregarded it because everyone in my family were like, that's my animal, this is that. And so I was like, yeah, whatever, animals, you just all come to me when you want to. And this cat she always slept with me. So I must have been struggling quite a lot.
She was healing you, lady. Like,
yeah.
She was working a magic, the cats as the master healers, right?
And she was she was a moody cat. She was one of those, don't touch me. But she would always sleep.
Are you
on
like that
bed.
too, Jacqueline?
I'm totally like that. Like,
Maybe she was mirroring you.
She was mirroring me, all right. And I only let her in. She was the only one I would let in because I trusted her. And it's like the cat I've got now. I know he's been with me in past lives. He is an Egyptian cat.
Guys,
He
her
just,
cat is so beautiful. Like, it's so small. Whenever I go there, it's like, your cat is so small compared to mine.
he's a hunter. He's fit,
He's always
runs,
walking around the garden when I arrive,
checking everything out,
checking everything out.
checking in with the vibration. And I know that that's a soul contract, because I didn't even want a cat. It was my daughter that wanted a cat, and we went to the animal shelter, and I'm looking at 30 cats, and I was in love with every cat.
Of course.
And I just
Why I
sort of
don't go to animal shelters.
it was
Because I'll take
hard.
them all home.
I took my mum too, and she's like, oh, this one. Like, I'm
I'll
like,
take
okay.
those 5, thank you, and I'll have those 7. Yes.
My mum tells me, your nana, my mother, had 10 cats. And I went, really? She went, oh yeah, she was a proper cat lady. And I said,
That's my dream.
it's your dream.
I would love to have like 10 cats, but my youngest would kill them all.
Oh, look, my daughter would have 10 cats. And I went, 1. We are having 1. Okay. So she actually the cat chose her. So this cat we got chose her. And she goes, I think I like this one. And I went, okay. And I just sort of walked over, and the cat came straight to me and let me pat him. And so I thought, okay. She goes, well, he comes to you too. So, let's
contract between the 3 of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. So I went, okay. And so we got him and we brought him home, and my daughter's actually like, he loves you more than me.
Well, there's a lesson in that, right?
He actually came for me. It went through her to bring him to me.
What's his role? Well, you can never pinpoint it to one role, but
No,
have
there's
you
many.
identified a connection between the 2 of you, a lesson, a purpose, a reason for him coming into your life, or you connecting at this point in time? Have you
Well,
worked?
when if my daughter and I are on the lounge together, the cat will sit above us, in between us, or in between our legs, or on our legs.
Yeah.
He will do that when her and I are together, and he just comes in and he has his presence and his frequency, and we're relaxing together. It's quite healing.
Do you think he's helping with the connection between you and your daughter?
Yeah, and I think he's also healing like a lot of stuff that I've been healing ancestrally. It's helping my daughter, and I think he's coming in to connect and protect us. Like there's only us two, so he's really predominant in his energy. Like he sits above us. I know he's being the masculine energy. He's really holding
Even
the
though
space.
He's so little, doesn't really look like I always think he's a girl because he's so small.
I know. He doesn't come across like a
Both
toughie.
feminine and soft in features.
Yep. And then he's on the prowl. Like if he hears a noise, he's off looking for it, and then he comes back. So there's this, I will protect you. And we relax when he's around us, and he just got this contract with both of us. He's been with her before too, because he came to her originally.
Well, it's probably the 3 of you, I'm sure, and
Together.
this audience, we're gonna just gonna go a bit woo-woo here, like, because we have but there is probably this past life or multiple past life connections between the 3 of you as a unit.
Absolutely. And he is a healer, so he comes into our sessions, as you know.
Yes, the last session we had was he was there like the whole time.
Yep. He'll either sit near you or under you, or with some clients that are really struggling, and we've done a fair bit of powerful stuff with each other. The cat will often jump up
on the human,
and go to a body part and lie there.
Yeah, healing.
And they will actually say at the end, I was having a lot of issues in that part of my body through that session.
He's never sat on me. I feel a bit offended now, left out.
No, but he comes in and he talks with you.
Yeah. I'm sure my higher self and
You
his
talk cat.
whole conversation that I'm
Yeah.
not even conscious of.
And he sits right near you on the ground, like he observes and
Mm.
he's overlooking and
Well, I always say
he,
I'm a cat in human form. So,
oh, totally. It's almost you're a bit superior to me.
just because I'm bigger. Hello.
That's the big cat mama.
Yeah, the lioness. God, what's that going to sound like? Sorry, guys, if that was like,
He's not the alpha with you.
yeah, yeah. So, Jacqueline, what is kinesiology?
Okay, so kinesiology is very woo woo.
Love it.
It's
But is it though? Because whenever I've looked at interpretations of it myself, don't they describe it as like kinesio? And I'm just like totally stepping on your tail here, but don't don't they say kinesiology is like a fusion of science and the woo woo?
yeah, it's like quantum physics meets physics, like
Mm.
it really is. There's so many layers to it, which works on all our layers. That's why it's like,
Very
oh yeah,
complex.
that's physical, and then it's like, no, it's spiritual and everything in
Mm.
between. So it's often a biofeedback message. That's how we explain it. And people
Okay.
go, what's that? What's a biofeedback message? It's basically I get an indicator muscle, which is called an IM, and I bypass, I believe, this is my interpretation of it, I can bypass your subconscious. So the biofeedback in testing a muscle and finding a yes, no will give me pretty much everything that we need to facilitate whatever you need at that time. And so we bypass the subconscious, we also bypass the unconscious and the conscious. So with that indicator, the biofeedback message that I'm getting from that muscle indicating an answer, really, people will just go, how did you get that? And I went, because I'm not asking you.
Of course. I'm asking your
I'm,
muscles.
yeah, your muscles hold this energy in the body that when we test a certain way, and we can test like 50 muscles, we could use any muscle to test that. But we normally just find a most comfortable one. And that's how we receive the information. And sometimes you don't switch on very well. I can't get an indicator, and then I have to do a few little
Happens to me,
yep,
right?
strengthen your switching. You can switch on and
No, I'm not
then,
telling you. My muscles are
yeah,
like, no, you cannot access us today.
bit of resistance sometimes. There's a bit of
Mm.
resistance, and
Yeah.
I often can feel that anyway when I'm testing the muscle. I often have to just stop doing that and just be present with that person and just have a conversation, and they relax.
Mm.
It's a trust thing.
Oh,
You
totally.
won't you won't get a good biofeedback message in kinesiology if you haven't established some sort of connection first. So kinesi's a connection, and you have to establish
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't even do it.
And it's so you've got to foster that connection with the client, and they have for it to be as an effective experience as possible. They need to trust. They need to let go.
Mm.
That
And
is
that might take a
definitely
whole session. Sometimes that might take a whole session for them to understand that they can trust. And, first 10 minutes, 15, I'm normally just chatting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just chatting and seeing how they are and relaxing them enough so I can get that indicator. And sometimes if I can't, I will surrogate. I will
So
test it.
will you use yourself as surrogate?
Yeah, I surrogate. I take the energy and then I can test through my fingers, and
Yeah,
I
okay.
can do it that way. And it's
Have you done
exactly,
that with me before?
oh
If
yeah, heaps. Yeah.
I'm very resistant.
When you got the eye pillow on, I'm doing that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. My body's just holding on to it. You cannot get in.
And sometimes, some people the muscle testing all the time, it brings them out. It's a real external. So I try and keep it quite balanced between the two. So I'll start with it and then I'll just lead in. And if I feel like I need to do a little bit of self-testing for them. so they can stay in this space. You know, if we're doing a lot of somatic work and a lot of emotional work, I'll try not
What do
to
you mean
pull
by
them out.
somatic work?
Well, just breathing and feeling where the sensations and the emotions have stored,
Yeah.
and just letting them just be there with the breath,
Mm,
breathing them through, not breathing them away,
yeah.
because we don't want to push it away. We want you to be in it. Sometimes we don't get to experience that somatic energy, and that's why we end up being quite ill.
Mm,
And I take you into that and just be with it. This might be the first time you've ever felt this anger,
yeah.
right?
First time
Just,
it's allowed to come up to the surface.
yeah. Yeah, and so I won't go and test them. I will pull in my self-testing surrogacy skills, and I will sort of move through, or it's intuitive. A lot of it's
Mm.
quite intuitive, and I'll know what that, like I'll get a mode that comes up because we have modes,
What's a
and they're
mode?
balances. They're balances. So
Like
each
techniques?
finger, each finger is like, that's a filing drawer.
Mm.
Okay. This is the filing cabinet. These are the filing drawers whenever we
So
tap
for
finger.
those people who are listening, not watching, so your fist closed is like the filing
That's like
cabinet, and
that's the
then
cabinet. Now
each
we want to
finger
open
is
it.
like
Each,
a drawer.
yeah, you got double fingers, you got palm stuff, you got things above the head, all sorts of stuff. And they're modes, they're called modes. But within that filing cabinet, this finger, there's drawers. So I run my finger across it and they will open up a different drawer. And when you open up that drawer, say it lands there, that's the drawer I open. It's got a number. And that's where you go in for the tools that are required to balance that person.
Mm.
And it's, you know, you can't really do that on animals. Just give me your arm and I'll muscle test. So
And so how does it work with animals? Like, like
it's different.
come to my clinic, lie on the table, little pussy, just stay there for an hour. Like, how do you do a kinesiology session with an animal?
It's pretty interesting. Like most of the time you don't even need to bring your dog or your
Yeah.
cat or your horse.
Yeah, because my cats aren't coming to your house. No way.
No way, no. And so you surrogate. That's the surrogation where I can test through the client.
So can you
And
explain in a really basic way surrogacy?
surrogacy is asking for permission for me to take on the energy of someone else so I can test through it. So that would be, let's say, example for you and your cat.
Mm,
You wanted to know things about your pussycat. I
mm,
would say, all right, I test on you. Do we have permission today to
yeah.
allow for Ruth to take on the energy of her cat? And if your body goes yes, I often go, is there any reason why we shouldn't? And if it says no, we can go in. And then I call that energy of your animal in. And then I go, okay, have we got the cat? Is the cat here with us? And then I test and I'll say yes or no.
We did that in one of my sessions, didn't we?
Hmm.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was
And
like,
sometimes I have had, and you can do this with mother and infant as well, or
mm.
father and infant. You can do it with babies, and you can also do it in utero.
And does it always do you do any like distance sessions, or is it
Mm.
all in person unit clinic? So when you don't have the human there, what are you using as a surrogate? You, or do you, I know
Yep,
some kinesiologists will
I'm the
use
surrogate.
like a teddy bear or something.
No, I'm the surrogate.
You use yourself
And
as,
I do exactly what we just did then, except I asked permission.
mm,
Because if you don't get permission, you can't go in.
of course. It's the same with energy healing. You don't have the permission, you can't just go around healing people.
And
Or
it might not be the person you're surrogating for, it could actually be you. Could actually be
yeah,
you're
right.
not in a really good place
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
And so then
Now's
there's
not
other
the time.
tools. Well, there's other tools. There's other tools I can go, okay, that's a no. How come? Let's see. Is she switched off? Do I need to hold her ESR points? Do I need to tune her up just a little bit? And sometimes you've got to tune up the surrogator.
What does tune up mean?
Switching them on, these little things that we do, switching
Okay.
all your polarities on. Sometimes we're switched off due to 4G, 5G phones, laptops, TVs, electrical devices throw us
So when you
out.
have a kinesiology session, put your phone on flight mode, please.
Yes,
Or turn it
absolutely.
off.
And move it away.
Move it away.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so, I'll do a few tools to balance you out. Hold the forehead. This is an emotional
I love having my
position.
forehead held. It's so comforting.
Yeah, it's a response, emotional sensitive response that we just hold there.
Mm,
And we just get the person to take a few deep breaths, or we do a bit of breathing. And then I can go back to that and ask if there's permission. And generally, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, it's a yes. We can go now. You just weren't right. You weren't ready to
yeah,
go in and allow for that energy to come through.
yeah. There might have
It's the
been.
same as me. If I had to surrogate and it goes, nah, you're not surrogating. It's like, oh, okay, maybe I need a drink of water. So sometimes you could be
Mm,
dehydrated, have a sip of water. You might need something to eat. Your sugar is a bit low. Just really minor things. And then all of a sudden, yep, I'm good to go. Let's go.
yeah, because it's like, even though this is an energetic modality, energetic, but also, well, it is energetic, but you are also using the muscles, but it's like the energy of the muscles, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so,
And
but
everything runs through that.
everything runs through that, but you still those muscles, that energy is still housed within a physical vessel. So that physical vessel needs to be able to be in the right place
Yeah.
to facilitate the
Yeah. And
session.
hold it.
You can't be dehydrated. You can't. It's like before we got on this call, I was like, oh, I have to have my smoothie. I cannot do this without having some fuel in my vessel.
That's
I
right. Or
need to
else I'm
be
going
focused
straight up.
and sharp and, yeah,
Sharp
that
and
kind of thing.
clear, and
Clear.
it's the same thing. You take on somebody else's energy, and there's a thing that we do. Okay, so allow for that energy to come in, let it land. Then I test it, and then when we're finished with surrogation, we're also going, okay, release all energies. Command your energy to return immediately,
Mm.
and cast out any other energies that you may be attached to. And
Otherwise, you're
so,
walking around as your cat.
yeah, you haven't come back in yet.
Mm. Meow.
Now, woof.
I want some turkey for dinner, please,
With gravy.
with gravy and a side of
I want
sardines
raw meat, please.
and something creamy like some yogurt or milk or something, because I really like it. And then we're eating off a plate off the floor, and then we're like, oh my God,
All fours.
Jacqueline didn't remove the cat from me.
Probably not to that extent, but it would be in there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so you can surrogate when you're doing kinesiology with an animal. You can use yourself as surrogate. You can use the animal's human as a surrogate. And why? What what can kinesiology be used for with animals?
It can be used
Like,
for
why would you
any,
do kinesiology on an animal?
well, behavior. It
Mm-hmm.
can be a physical thing like their diet.
Yeah.
It could also be like mental.
You
It
can pick
could,
up like allergies and sensitivities, right?
yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Exactly
And
what you test on a human.
yeah, I've got a client who gets her kinesiology to test for her cat's intolerances. And I'm like, oh, cool, that's great. And I did up a flower essence, bespoke flower essence for the cat. And
Brilliant.
she took it to the kinesiologist, and the kinesiology like tested it. And I can't remember what it was, but there was a block that she wasn't actually receiving the benefit of the flower elixir. And
Didn't
she
assimilate.
needed to cut something out of the diet so that she could assimilate the energy from the flower essence. I think it was something along those lines. I was like, God, that's so interesting. I'm so glad you asked your kinesiologist to
Yeah.
do this so that this essence could actually work and do
Work.
what I had intended it to do. Right. So,
And sometimes the essences or homeopathics, they all need to be taken away from food and water. So
mm,
it won't work. And sometimes if you don't have to give it internally, like
yes.
say it's a dog, you could just put that essence in its bed.
Mm. I mean, I always say, just stroke it into their fur. Give them a nice little
And
massage.
if they're really sensitive, just put it on their bed as the bottle and they
Yeah.
sleep with it. That's
Yeah.
what you do is with children, like really small kids,
Yeah. Love
toddlers.
that.
Don't give it to them. You just pop it under their pillow and they sleep with it every night.
I
So
love
it's all
that.
vibrational.
That's something I've
Mm.
never. I'm going to start telling my clients that. Thanks for that tip, Jacqueline.
And
Um,
a lot of, alcohol's put in it too. So some bushflower essences or whatever we use that's vibrational, they use like a brandy
use
to,
brandy.
yeah, to keep it alive a little bit longer. Some don't, but if people are, you know, coming off alcohol and addictions, they can't take it.
Yeah, and I always, whenever I'm taking mine, it's like, oh, a few drops of brandy before I go to bed. Lovely.
That's right. And so, some people can't digest that or ingest it. So I just say put it under your pillow.
That's why with mine, I don't make them up. Like obviously, you have that stock bottle that's got the brandy in or whatever. But when I'm making up the specific bottles for the animals, I don't make it up like you might. I don't add the alcohol. I do it. I add glycerin, organic glycerin instead. So it's like a glycetract, like a herbal glycetract, and it has
That's
a
a good
sweet
one.
taste. And I've had dogs who literally will lick it off the human's palm because dogs have little, little tip here for everyone, little nugget of information. Dogs have sweet taste receptors. So they like
Ah,
things that are sweet. Whereas cats, it's like salty,
yes.
salty, more of that savory. They don't really like sweet. Although
No,
one of my cats did, I had a lion's mane glycetract the other day that I wanted to start giving to him. And I just put a drop on my finger and I put it up to him, always giving them the opportunity to experience it in the way they want to experience it first. And he sniffs it and he's like, he didn't freak out. Like when he'll just go, what the frig is that? I'm not going anywhere near that. Run to the hills, run to the wardrobe. But he was like, the smelling was longer. And then he licks his lips. I'm like, oh, I think you're going to like this. And then he licked it. Whereas if it had alcohol, there's no way in the world, just the smell of it, he would have ran for the hills.
because the cats are so high
So
frequency,
yeah.
that
I
alcohol's
love
like,
that you'd say that actually high frequency because I always say it as in cats are just so sensitive to
mm,
smells and tastes. And so it can be really quite challenging to have a cat take a herbal remedy or a flower essence remedy that's got alcohol, but a lot of them on the market are still with alcohol. And a lot of people say, oh, it's fine, it's such a tiny amount of alcohol. But we're not talking about humans here. When we're
no.
talking about cats, it's like, yeah, but what's the point of making this if they're not going to take it? It's not medicine then.
And
Um,
their frequency is really high. And
frequency. I wanted to, can we, I mean, it's a bit off topic, but not really. But what is the frequency of alcohol?
alcohol's low.
Low, and the cat's frequency is really high. So it's like, ooh, get away from me, low frequency.
Like alcohol burns,
Yeah.
cleans things.
And the only way that alcohol appears out there in nature is through fermentation. Like if a
That's right.
plant has fermented or dogs,
That's
they
right.
might, catch and, get their prey and kill it and eat some of it and bury it a little bit later. And then it starts to like ferment and everything. So that's how alcohol is naturally created through the fermentation process.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, ethanol. We're talking about
Yep.
brandy.
Straight.
We're talking about grain alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
It's a
natural.
cleaning product, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like ethanol. Like, oh my God. Like, why? Yeah, I need to do a whole show on that
And
actually.
yes, that's a really good point because
Yeah.
the fermentation process, cats don't like that.
Mm. No, cats don't like sauerkraut. Anyone who's listening or watching, if your cat likes sauerkraut, can you please email me? Because I want to know. I've never had a cat who's like sauerkraut. It's too pungent. They're like, oh,
Yes. And I don't think they've got the same microbiome going on.
no, they
In
don't.
It's a totally different connection compared to a dog or a horse
There are
or
some similarities between a dog and a cat's microbiome, but there's also differences,
mm,
distinct differences, like there is between a human and a dog, or human and a cat,
yeah,
or human and a horse. We all have a microbiome, but there are
yeah.
nuances and differences because our digestive system, while it's similar, it's like you've got a cat as an obligate carnivore. You've got a dog who's scientifically in the order of carnivora, but they have omnivorous tendencies, right? They're not an obligate or strict carnivore like a cat is.
Yeah.
And then you've got the human who is omnivore. And so when you look at the intestinal tract of a cat and a dog and a human, the human has the longest gastrointestinal tract of the three because it's designed to be digesting and assimilating and processing those harder to digest foods. Like plants can take a while, like we've got to break through those fibrous walls and things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas a dog is a little bit shorter than the humans, and the cat's is even shorter still. The cat's digestive tract is designed for meat.
Yeah.
It moves quickly through the cat's intestinal tract.
And they like graze a lot too.
They graze and they don't chew a lot. Like humans are always told you got to chew your food 20 times and then swallow it. Cats, you watch a cat eat. Yep. 1, 2, chew, 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 swallow. Chew, 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 swallow. Or lick, swallow. You know, if we ate like that, we'd get so constipated.
Totally.
And that's why it's like, yes, we all have the same parts of a digestive system. You know, we all have small intestine, large intestine, esophagus, bloody hell, all the things. But there's differences in terms of the enzymes and the microbiome and how it functions based on the diet that we are designed to eat.
That's right. And I think that's got a lot to say with, that's why the alcohol's, that's why they don't like it. And it really brings their frequency right down, you know, like,
yeah,
cats are high. Cats are high,
baby. Right.
That's why they're sensitive.
That's why they're amazing to have around you, because they're high frequency. They're going to balance out all that low shit that's hanging around.
Their senses are heightened. Yeah, because of that.
And that's why they're such great healers, because they're just
intuitive.
How do they respond? Let's stick with cats for a moment. How do cats respond to kinesiology?
You know, with my cat, he's, you know, only likes to be touched when he likes to be touched. So
typical cat, right?
He loves this particular thing I do. It's called fixations, and that's the balance. On a human, I would normally roll you over and lift through each vertebrae. Yeah. So that's if you've been fixated on a particular thing, like I'm going to say stuck. Right. So you're stuck in something and you feel a little bit trapped. I often will do that on my cat. I'll start at his base and I'll work all the way up. And he is like an accordion going.
You'll be touching a lot of acupressure points on the way too. Yeah.
Yeah, all through that spinal. It's like that nervous system.
And the central channel of the body.
Yep. And the back is the governing and the front is the central line. So, you know, I'm really working through his nervous system all the way up, and I take it right to his neck, and then he'll lift his head like, yeah, that's good. And then I'll do it again. And, you know, it really actually settles him.
And you're doing tail to head.
Tail to head, go up through
the reverse kind of, like, even if for the audience, it's like, even just doing, when you're doing that, you know, it's for dogs too, but just that spinal, like running your hand or your fingers down that spine, back up that spine, because you are crossing across all the meridians, the acupressure points. And it's such a beautiful way it's such a beautiful and simple way to release energy.
And it does. You can see his whole body just sort of goes. And you see it, you go, it's like it's doing this, like it's a frequency wave.
Yeah.
And he just loves that. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, I'll sit now. You know,
I can relax.
I can relax now. And there's another one, you know, I do right through here and around these particular areas.
So like between the brow
and here and around the back of his ears. And, you know, this is your mandible, and that connects with the TMJ. And so I
love that.
Yes, that's a nerve center.
Massage my ears, please.
It's a nerve center for them, because there's like their hearing is next level.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've got like superpower ears. And you only have to hear a pin drop on the other side of the
Miles away.
country, and its ears go up.
Yeah.
So, and you know,
I don't hear anything.
but this cat can hear it
Like,
in New
deaf
York.
human. I always say to my cats, I don't have the same ears or eyes that you guys do. Like,
No,
I've just got these useless human eyes and ears. I can't
that's
see
right.
what you can see, but I trust you're seeing something.
And so I think there's a lot of those little techniques that I just naturally do with him, and he calms down because he can be like, he likes grabbing onto my arm and thinking it's a tree trunk.
Yes, nice.
He's crazy. He has the crazy. He goes cray quite a
He
lot.
probably builds up quite a lot of energy, so that's
Oh, testosterone.
testosterone.
I said, here comes the testosterone, and it's like this burst. Eyes go black. Oh, here it comes, and
He's getting wild.
going to go wild. And I let him sort of do it, and I play with him with like, get off, don't chew my arm. And then he jumps on the bed, and that's when I do that. And it's like, okay, let's bring it down now. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it really does work with him. And even the dogs I've had before, that they've been the same. I've done the same thing. Even when they're lying down on their back, you know, I will do lymphatic points that you do on the same position as a human.
Yeah.
I'll rub those points on the dog, and you know, they are in heaven. They love it. Then they go off and empty their bowels.
Of course, exactly. They've been able to release.
Yeah.
So basically, you can use kinesiology, or animals can benefit from kinesiology in the same way that humans can. So whether it's behavioral, emotional, physical health challenges as well.
Yeah, definitely. You can pick up on physical problems with them through the testing, through the muscle testing. And, you know, often I'll just go to the vet and see what you can get done here through bloods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I knew my dog was dying. And this is really interesting because I knew when he was dying, he kept running away to die.
Yeah, this is what they do, right?
Yeah. And then someone would find him and take him to the vet, and then we go pick him up. This happened for a bit, and I was like, oh, leave him. He just wants to go.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting him after him trying to run away to die.
Yeah.
And he was just like, gave me that look of, I'm done. And so I actually gave him transition essence.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
Which is a bush flower one.
I have my own. It's called Rainbow Essence.
Same thing.
You know, going over the Rainbow Bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going over the Rainbow Bridge. Yeah.
Same
And,
idea,
you
yeah.
know, I would often hold his head front and back and give him the essence, and just lie next to him and hold him, and just say, you know what? It's okay for you to go whenever you want to go. And he knew exactly what I was saying, because he would turn his head and look straight at me. And, you know, in the end, you had to euthanize him because he was so weak. His whole, I could feel his kidneys
He didn't even have the
functioning.
energy to facilitate the dying of the physical body. Yeah.
And I just spent time with him so he could make that slow transition out of his body. And, you know, when he looked at me like that, I said, do you want to go to sleep?
Yeah.
And he, no.
Yes, please. I can't do it myself.
And so that's when I committed to doing that. It was like, okay, it's time. I've got permission. That was permission.
Yeah.
And I'd already been working with the development of him letting go, the transitioning, and
the essence.
you know, everything was letting go. Nothing was working. I was trying so much stuff physically to keep him because of me.
Exactly. You didn't want to lose him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I've heard that, and I understand that dying actually takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Because if you think the body is like switch off, switch off, switch off, switch off, switch off, it's like, you know, that's what my brain imagines. And it's so funny, Jacqueline, because the third and the order of the episodes on the show are not necessarily going to be delivered in the order that I've done them. So I have no idea where this show is going to go in the order of episodes for this season. But this is the third conversation I've had where death has come up. So interesting.
And they do have that process to go through, and it's just being available for them to just be there through that they're slowing, it's slowly, their physical body and spirit body is separating slowly.
Exactly. It's like when Lily passed, and it happened over 2 weeks, and it was just a matter of and seeing her in those last few days, and her soul spirit in and out of the physical body, and that last the absolute last breath that she took, and she was in my bed, you know this because I went and saw you like 3 days after she passed with her photo, and then I just burst into tears. But she came through in the session we had. I remember you saying, "Oh, she's so angelic." I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, she was an angel." And I think you're like, "She still is an angel." And I'm like, "Oh my God, she's an angel." But
I think that's how they come through for me too. I normally see the animal in its color first, like a color will come to me, and then their personality.
Yeah, interesting.
And then my whole body I will end up tingling, like I will feel like I'm electric.
Yeah,
And
wow.
that's the spirit energy. And that's when I go, okay. And then I'll get this deep, intense emotion come through. And that's when I begin to share with the client, okay, I can feel this, I can see this. And
I remember what you shared. You probably don't remember, because you had
I don't remember.
You had 1,000 sessions.
You know the angel bit. I remember the angel.
This will come back to you when I share it. I remember you saying that you saw there was like the little dandelions and butterflies, and she was running around like a spring lamb, and she said something like, "Have I left yet? This feels exactly the same as it did when I was with Mum. Have I left?" I remember that, and that's what you shared with me, and I was like, and so automatically I thought, it's like, oh my God, she felt like she was in heaven with me.
Oh, that's
right. In that moment, and I said to you, it's like, yes, when she was really excited and had lots of energy, she would hop around like a spring lamb. And that's like, and you saw that. So she's up there in heaven, and she's like, ding, 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 having a great old time. She's like, have I left? This feels the same. And so at that time, because it was only like, well, no, by that time, I think it had been a week since she'd passed, because it was the day that I'd gotten her ashes. And I did a whole 4-day process with her at home. And then I took her to the crematorium, and then the next day I got her ashes. So it would have been like day 6 after she passed that I came to you for the session. And so to receive that message was so comforting. Like she felt like she was in heaven with me.
Like nothing's changed for her.
No, but the feeling of like, oh, she was so happy and peaceful when she was with me, like to feel that assurance, like you did a good job, Mum. Thank you. Like, like so, and this is the beauty of doing things like this, is going, when you do have an animal that passes, because it's going to happen to all of us, right? Is knowing where you can go to support you through that process. And I immediately knew, like, I've got a number of practitioners that I like to go and see, but I was like, I need to go see Jacqueline for this.
And it's peace. It's about harboring peace for the client in that passing. It's like a passing of anyone. Animals are the same as a human passing. It runs as deep.
Yeah, totally.
And I remember saying that to you. It's no different, and it brings some peace back to the client, so they can not let go of
Help with letting go
animal.
of the physical loss.
Yeah, letting go of that physical aspect, and you know, I often will see, I'll get a picture of you in your house and the animals going in. I said, oh, did the animal sit here on this chair a lot? And you'd be like, yeah. And I said, she's still there.
This isn't, and we've totally gone off topic now, because this isn't the kinesiology work that you do. This is other work that you
It's the
do
other
that goes
intuitive.
beyond.
Yeah, that's the clairvoyant, the mediumship work that comes through, and I just get these glimpses, and I get like a movie playing, like I can either just stare off in, I'll end up space, and I'll see it like a movie start flickering through, and I just verbalize it to see whether this is your stuff, and then I get those sensations as well that we discussed before, or I'll get like, I will hear it. I will hear the animal noise, or I will hear maybe a scene that's happened with you and the animal. I will hear it. I'll hear someone's talking to me, telling me about that story to remind you about that story. So it comes in
like the messenger.
Yeah, like it's always a message, and it's either visually, it's auditory, or it's sensationally. I will feel it come up, or emotionally, I will feel it. Sometimes it's all four at the same time. That's pretty full on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, woo, this is
like
big.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, and it's like the presence of this animal really wants to come through. Yeah. Or I've often seen like people lying on the bed, and I'll see this dog just run, and I'll go, I just saw a dog in here run, or I just saw a black cat, and they'll go, oh, that I had a black cat when I was 5.
And
they'll go, or a dog, and they'll go, oh, what type of dog? I said, it's quite a big dog, and they're like, oh no, that's not the dog that's passed. And I said, what about when you were little? So you'll often get a lot of what you had as a child, they come through too.
And one of the absolute first session that I had with you, you're not going to remember this one. This was like years ago, so 5 years ago or something. You're in a different house, obviously, but and many houses. And Lily came through in that session too. That wasn't a kinesiology session. That was so funny, because I went to you for kinesiology because a friend of mine said, oh, you got to go see Jacqueline. So I was expecting kinesiology, and kinesiology didn't happen. I'm like, well, that wasn't kinesiology, but it was still fucking amazing, you know. Oh, sorry. But Lily came through in that one as well. Towards the end, I saw myself sitting by a stream, and Lily was sitting next to me as Lily the cat. But the feeling that I got was Lily was a reflection of me, and she was actually my inner child in this image that I saw. And that just blew me. I was like, oh my God, Lily's my inner child. We did some inner child stuff in that first session.
That's right. It just comes in different forms, and you know, that's why I just open to it all. And sometimes we test, and that's kinesi. Some of the tools that we use is kinesi, and some of the other tools are just channeled. And I'll go with my instinct and follow it. And often if it's resonating, it's in alignment, you know. If it's not, then it's that person doesn't want that part to come in. That's okay. We'll do something else. It doesn't have to be like that. And, you know,
what you need right now in this moment.
That's it. And that's why it's so broad. Kinesi is so broad. We can tap into anything mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you know, our etheric energies, our celestial energies. We can tap into all of it. Just depends what you need. And you didn't need kinesiology in that first session.
I need to sit with Lily by the stream.
Yeah. Because you relate it. That's where you relate. And often I will feel where you relate the most, and that's where I go in. Or someone that really needs to relate to, like I had a man recently, and he has lost his daughter. And it was just devastating. And I felt that for him. And everybody's been like, you know, get over it.
Mm.
And anyway, he's struggling. So I said to him, you know what? Don't get over it. I want you just to be where you are with all
Yeah,
of
just
that
be with
right
it.
now.
Mm.
And so we explored it. And, he really needed to understand his emotions. He very old school. They weren't taught that. Boys aren't allowed to cry type of
Exactly.
stuff. And, I said to him, right here, this is an open slab. You can just, I want you just to feel
Mm.
that anger,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. He said, I'm an angry man now. And I said, yeah, because you weren't allowed to express it. So today you're going
Exactly.
to. And
Yeah.
so when I did that, this voice came through and I said, oh, Chloe, did I hear that right? And he went, no, I don't know Chloe, but we had a dog, Cleo.
Mm.
Right. And I went, oh, was, was your daughter close to this dog? And he went, no, but the dog followed her around all the time.
Mm.
And I said, is the dog passed? And he goes, yeah. I said, well,
Oh, they're
she's,
together now.
yeah. And that brought so much solitude for
Oh,
him,
there's so much comfort for him.
comfort, and he just cried. And I said, okay,
Beautiful
all
relief.
right, she's got all these things around her. And
She's
then
not alone.
we went more into how, I went right away from that for him. I went, okay, let's go here. This is about you. It's not about that, because you're actually something without that.
Yes.
And then we went into, and he went right into the depth of his innocence, where it was really the anger started. And
Mm.
it was the first time he connected with himself, which is why he feels so much loss.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And the animal came through
There is
straight up,
healing in grief.
healing and grief. And I just said, you
Mm.
know what, let's sit with this anger for a bit, because you're in a safe space here and you've never been able to be safe in that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's
Love
create
that.
safety around that. And his whole body came alive. He said, I feel like I'm electric right now. And I said, that's your
Mm.
daughter.
She's here. And I think
That's
that's a
your
beautiful
daughter.
story to share, because it just shows how you can be doing something. You can be facilitating a session that's got nothing you think to do with an animal. And then an animal just appears out of nowhere. And
That's
it's
right.
like this relates back to that connection between the human and the animal, is like, it's like you're opening a portal for them to come through and deliver a message.
Absolutely. And it's, I'm just really a conduit, darling. Like
And that's just,
I'm
I've literally got a question here. Which we're answering naturally without even meaning to ask it. What do you see as your role as far as that involves animals? So yeah,
and
go
I'm
into it.
just that conduit of I assist in bringing the message through, like the shadow whisperer,
I love
and
that.
they're the shadow whisperer. Just I allow that the integration, the mentoring. The role that I play is mentoring and helping facilitate the healing that you need through silently whispering your shadow. And it's confronting, and it is really confronting, but if you can allow for that, I'm just a conduit to bring that through, and it comes from somewhere else. It's not
Yeah,
through me.
exactly. Yeah.
And I never ever claim that. I will always go, they say, oh, you did that, and I went, no, it came through me for you. And
Exactly.
that's the only way, when you're working with source and Christ consciousness is coming through, you are a conduit of that energy, and it
Exactly.
has to be transmitted through me and into another human.
Mm. Especially in
Otherwise,
a moment or in a phase of life where does involve grief, and you can't see the, what's that expression, you can't see the wood for the trees or something. They're not going, when you're in such an
forest,
emotional state like that, and it doesn't need to be as hardcore as grief, it can just be you're really stressed and burned out, right? So you're
yeah,
not going to be able to get clarity. And so there's going to be the cool little like woo-woo spiritual beings hanging around trying to get messages to you. But if you are so closed off because you're so in the physical and so like overwhelmed by life, it's unlikely you're going to get that information, that those messages they're
that's
trying
right.
to help you. And so if you go and seek out someone like yourself, then it's that you step in and you as the conduit, and and then finally the information gets to come through and delivered and received, because they couldn't receive it themselves.
And sometimes, a lot of people, some people aren't really open to that. And I'll always know, I will always pick up on it, and I will work on a level that they can relate to. So if they don't want the woo-woo, that's okay. I'm still getting all the information.
Yeah.
I'm being told the information. They generally, my team will always say, no, do this with this person.
Yeah, so you can utilize that information in a way
They don't know that.
Yeah.
They don't know I'm getting that down
They'll be
low.
like, you
But then
crazy.
I'll move it into some physical thing for them and work through maybe a programming or an emotion or a physical thing that they can go, oh, I relate to that, because my team have gone, this is where you need to go with this person.
Yeah.
And it's generally like that's why everyone is, that's why I love what I do, because it's never the same page that you're getting.
Every session is different. And I'm just conscious of the time, because I know you have a client. And
yes, got to do my work.
Got to do the work, right?
Got to do the work.
Everything we've been talking about. So you need to be, I understand you need to be able to prepare yourself and get into the
zone,
mode, drop out of the head into the heart and all that jazz. So I'm just going to ask you 5 minutes. Can you really, I've got 2 more questions that I want to ask you. Just coming back, and so if you can give like a brief answer so that you're not rushing to your appointment. I just wanted to really briefly touch on physical injuries, because you shared with me the other day about, I think it was you that said that you had a physical injury and how that showed up in your animal.
Yeah. I have a hip issue, and it's actually really funny. When I did the injury, unbeknown to me, I injured it 15 months ago. And it's only really come out in full chaos in the last 3 to 4 months. So for 15 months, we'll say 12 months, I was unaware of it. And during that period, my cat had 2 injuries. So 2 times to the vet, cut itself open, and it was showing me to like slow down. There was this, because I had to stay with him and look after him twice. It happened twice in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what are you actually trying to show me? And I had this thing going on, but I didn't know. Then he did this big jump from 2 stories and sort of sprained his back leg. He couldn't walk. His hips were not working. And so I took him to the vet, and they're like, oh, they need an MRI and all this. And I'm like, no. I think he might have just sprained something. And I said, let me take him home and I'll stay for 24 hours and see if anything changes. Well, 24 hours later, he was fine. And then I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, yeah, what's going on here? So then I find out it's in my hip. So it was almost like he was trying to slow me down enough with the first 2 injuries so I'd be more present with myself. Then he actually strained his hips, one of his legs, and I'm going to say it's the same leg, to show me, hey, check in. And then it wasn't until I moved and it blew out that I recalled this and went, hang on, that's when he did all that. So he was trying to show me there was something going on with me by him physically hurting himself.
Yeah, and this is and animals will do this. Like, it's part of this soul contract, is this agreement that this is going to happen, so I'm going to help you through this healing journey that this life is for you. And it's a reciprocal relationship. It's not one-sided. We help our animals as much as they're helping us. But they'll step in and they will do something, whether it's a physical injury or a behavioral issue or a health challenge. And oftentimes there is that mirroring agreement in place. And it's an opportunity, we spoke at the top of the show around reflection. But it's like, it's saying, hey, this is happening with me. Reflect back on yourself and see where this is showing up for you. And it's like, it's a trigger, or this is an opportunity for you, human, to heal in this area. I'm trying to send you a message. Are you getting the message? And sometimes it has to be so exactly. And usually when something presents as physical, there's been nudges for probably years. I know this for myself personally as well, with my physical body, nudges through the years, and you haven't paid attention, or you haven't received the message, and then all of a sudden it seems out of nowhere there's a physical condition. You're like, what the hell? But it's been, they've tried to get your attention in another way, and you're not getting the message. Okay, well, you'll get it if it's physical, maybe. That's not always, because you can't help but know, like, what is going on here? And if you're open to look at things outside of the modern medicine way of doing it, and remembering that what is physical steeps from emotion, what is the emotional relevance to the physical issue
of that going on?
Sometimes you can't do that by yourself. You need to go and see a practitioner.
And he's my healer, really. So
of course, but he's like, but this physical injury as well for you is an opportunity for your body to release repressed emotion in this area. So maybe he was like giving you like a warning sign. Hello, this is just going to unpack for you in your hip.
So I can be in your life.
I can be in your life. Now,
I want a mummy that's happier. So this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. We agreed that we were going to work on this together, and now's the time.
That's exactly right.
So if you could change one, I ask this of all my guests, if you could change one thing about the human-animal relationship, what would that be?
I feel the hierarchy. So there's a lot of hierarchy around humans being above the animals in the food chain, and because we can just go and kill them whenever we want, we can leave them and abandon them whenever we want, we can mistreat them.
Legally, they're our property.
That's right. We can do what we want with them. And I think that would be nice if that could change, humans having more respect for animals and their ability to be so intuitive and connected. We could learn a lot from that, and not feeling like we are above them or superior of them. We are of the same. And, we are of the same. It's just that they're more tuned in than what we are.
Exactly.
Mostly. And they can teach us so much in connecting, and the hierarchy around that whole I will just come in and shoot you and that's it.
I am human, therefore I've
got a gun, or I've got a this, or I've got a that, and they're helpless. Animals are helpless to that. And we need more animal warriors out there.
Totally. Well, hopefully this show will inspire more animal warriors. Let's do this, people. Like, here's the call. Are you ready to heed it?
Yeah, here it comes.
Let's do this, people.
Let's do it.
So, Jacqueline, I will obviously put all your details in the show notes, but as I always say to everyone, could you just verbally speak out your website URL for those who can't be asked to look at show notes?
I'm spiritualmastery8.com. So one whole word and the number 8.
And it's the same on Instagram, isn't it? It's just
Spiritual Mastery 8 on Insta, and just Spiritual Mastery on FB, but the website Spiritual Mastery number 8.com.
Perfect. Go check out Jacqueline. If you're, and just, you can still get the benefit of her services even if you're not on the sunny coast, because
online
you do the distant work as well. And she's got some beautiful offerings, many of which I have experienced myself. Thank you so much for your time today, Jacqueline.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Well, Maxie's just come to say hello. Hi, Maxie. It's time to say goodbye.
Oh, the timing.
Good timing. Perfect. All right. Thanks, listeners. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
If you love this show, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you really love this show or a particular episode, of course, I would love for you to leave a review. You know, this helps me to get the show out there. And the more that we can put these thoughts and ideas out there around how to understand animals better, respect animals better, have more compassion and love for animals, we have the power to change the world. We have the power to change the way animals are treated and regarded so that they can live happier lives. So I would love for you to come on this journey with me, to advocate these messages with me. And so because we all live in this digital age and everything's based on algorithms, the more likes and reviews and subscribes I get, the more the algorithms push out my show. And that means the message gets out to more and more people. And we're going to just create so many animal lovers. It's going to be insane. So I would love for you to come on this journey with me. Big love to you and your fur babes, no matter what form they take. Go out into the world, enjoy seeing and witnessing and being with the animals. They are such a beautiful, beautiful part of our life. And we are so lucky and privileged to be able to share our lives with them. So thank you, and goodbye for now.